Ave Legion and welcome to my channel. My name is Ludi and today we'll be doing our EU4 1.30 starting moves guide for Moldavia. It was a tough choice choosing between Wallachia and Moldavia since they're basically the same, but I am from Moldavia so I am quite biased. And also Moldavia is a lot less RNG than Wallachia and easier for beginners. In this guide we'll be going over the achievements, estates and economy, diplomacy and war preparations, as well as your wars with Wallachia, Serbia and the Ottomans, and future expansion paths and ideas. Before we start the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like, commented, and subscribed, as well as leave the bell button on. Also, don't forget to join our Discord channel. We have a growing community of awesome individuals, and I'd love it if you're part of it. You can find the link in the description, so see you on Discord. If we can get this video to 800 likes, then I'm gonna do a giveaway for EU4 DLC or the base game if you don't have it. The best achievement and the only achievement that you can get as Moldavia or as Wallachia is Dracula's Revenge, where you need to own all of the Balkans directly or through a subject and form Romania. When discussing the estates, the first thing we always do is summon the diet and followed up by taking the agenda that best suits us, and afterwards we're gonna seize land from the estates to get rid of the negative modifiers. The privileges that we're gonna give the boyars are the supremacy over the crown and monopoly on livestock. The privileges for the clergy will be oversight by the clergy, monopoly on wool, and monopoly on wine. For the burghers, we're gonna give free enterprises and private trade fleets, and for the Cossacks, Cossack self-governance, recruit Cossack leaders, and prime herding rights. At the very start, Moldavia is part of the Crimean trade node, and what we're going to do is we're going to send one more trader to start collecting from the Crimean trade node and another trader to start collecting from the Pest trade node. We don't have any presence in the Pest trade node, but we're gonna annex Wallachia fully, so we're gonna get quite a considerable presence there in a few years. Most of Moldavia's lands are either farmlands or grasslands, with the one exception in Bessarabia, which is a steppe. So playing toll as this nation is viable, but it depends on how you do your early moves. Before playing toll, we actually have to survive. Do remember to consecrate Metropolis in your home state, which is gonna give you +5 patriarch authority. Once we get a bit more, we can get our first icon that's gonna boost us up considerably. The rivals that you can get as the Moldavians are gonna be the Wallachians all the time, and a second nation sometimes is added, such as the Teutons or the Serbians, but it is not guaranteed. If you do get a second nation rivaling you, then you can rival them back, but if you don't have one, then you're not gonna be able to rival anyone except the Wallachians. The main goals as Moldavia is to form Romania, and in order to do that we have to fully annex the Wallachians, as well as get some provinces from the Turks and from the Hungarians. The Hungarian provinces will have to wait for a bit. We are going to be attacking the Wallachians as soon as we get a claim on them, and we will be gunning for the Turkish provinces after the war with Wallachia, and in order to do that we're going to improve relations with the Albanians, but before we do that we're going to build a spy network in Wallachia so we get our first claim, and we're going to get a royal marriage with the Hungarians in hopes that we get some better relations with them. This doesn't always work, however, so keep that in mind. Once we get our second diplomat back, we're going to start improving relations with the Hungarians after we've declared war on the Wallachians, as we want to keep our spy here even after we get our claim on Buzău, simply because it would help us with sieging down their forts, as we get siege ability from having a spy network in a certain country. Also remember to set your trade fleet to protect trade in the home trade region of Crimea. All we have to do now is wait for our spy network to finish building a claim in Wallachia. Remember to also be careful, as you will get an event in a few years where you have to choose between becoming a March of Poland, of Hungary, or remaining independent. Be sure to choose the option that keeps you independent and not a March of anybody else. When that happens though, you will have some pretender rebels spawn in your country, so we'll discuss about that once it happens. You should have your claim on Buzău by the December of 1445, and if you improve relations in this time with the Hungarians, then you should be able to get an alliance with them. Get the alliance and start your war against the Wallachians. Most of the times Wallachia allies Herzegovina, and if they do, co-belligerate them, as we want to make them our vassal. And start your war. Make sure you choose the Conquest CB, not the other one, and get a general. Make your ruler a commander just in case he gets a siege pip. Even if he doesn't get one, just make the best one of the two a commander. And we can do our first mission, which is ally a rival of the Ottomans. That's going to give us claims on Bulgaria and Silistria and build up to force limit. We're also going to start our assault into Wallachia Wallachia before the Hungarians decide they want to start their own war. Make sure you set all of Wallachia as provinces of vital interest just in case the Hungarians decide to attack. You can tell by the fact that they stop drilling, and then you can just call them in and promise land, but you're not actually going to give anything, and if they take any lands, they're not going to be able to take it. Hopefully the Hungarians do not join, however, because if they do take lands, be it in your war or their own war, they will definitely annex it afterwards, and we want to take all of these lands for ourselves. Wallachians usually attack the fort in Bessarabia. If that happens, remember to set your edict to the defensive edict. That gives you a lot of extra defensiveness, and the fort in Giurgiu is actually a farmland fort, so it's quite easy taken down. Don't stress too much about it. If you're lucky enough and you get a 1 siege pip, then that is perfect, but if you're not lucky with that, that's still okay. You should have enough time to take it out. Normally I recommend improving relations with the Albanians, but if the Ottomans started the war with the Albanians already before you can even improve relations, then see how the war goes, and if it's going on the Christian side, then swoop in and get your own claims in Bulgaria whenever you get a chance. Romans invasion event has happened, and as I previously mentioned, you get a chance to become Poland's March or Hungary's March, or you can simply just get the revolt in Brlad, and we're just gonna go for that. Check your ruler stats. You got a 232. You might have different stats from me, and then check Roman stats. If he has good stats, let him become your new king. If he doesn't have good stats, which is the case with my Roman here, then kill him off. As you can see, sieging down Giurgiu is a lot faster than Bessarabia, so by the time we take Giurgiu, we can even take Târgoviște before going back to Bessarabia and unsieging that fort. But do make sure you carpet siege all of Moldavia after you've taken Giurgiu, just in case the Hungarians decide to pay us a visit. RNGesus is definitely on my side. The pretenders have decided to attack the fort in Bessarabia that is being besieged by Wallachians. When sieging the fort in Târgoviște, use your free company as it uses up their own manpower and you don't lose your own manpower while sieging that. I also recommend from the start of the game to make sure that you focus on your military points and you get a military advisor, whichever is best for you, so that we can get the first military tech unlocked before anybody else. You will be taking one loan by this time, but it's a small loan and we're gonna pay it off after we take the money from Wallachia, kill off whatever is left of the Wallachian army, and if they're still sieging down Bessarabia and you're struggling with it, you can also sally out with the garrison, annex the whole country and take all the money they have. You're gonna get a coalition of Wallachia itself, but that is a-okay because it doesn't matter. Take everything in the peace treaty, and then we can do another mission, unite the voivodes. It's going to give us state maintenance and autonomy change minus 0.03, core up all the provinces in Wallachia, and pay off your loans. You should still have a bit of cash lying around, so that's going to be coming in handy in our next war. If you didn't manage to vassalize Herzegovina in the war against Wallachia, that is okay. We do have time to do it in the future. What we're going to do next is we're going to be attacking the Serbians with a no CB. This is going to give us a coalition of a few nations that are mainly Orthodox nations. What we're going to do is we're going to call in the Hungarians, and they do have a massive army, so we don't need to worry about it. And we're also going to co-belligerate both the Byzantines and the Bosnians. So if in your game the Serbians are not allied to the Byzantines, then you should just directly attack the Byzantines with the no CB war and vassalize them. But if they have as an ally the Serbians, then make the Serbians your target, as you can definitely call in the Hungarians since they want to take lands from the Serbians, and co-belligerate whoever doesn't call in any more allies, meaning if I co-belligerate Bosnia or Byzantium, they don't call in any more friends, so that eventually we can take a lot of lands both in the Balkans and make sure that we prevent the Ottomans from expanding into Constantinople in the early game. Before you do decide on that, check the Ottoman situation. If the Ottomans are not at war with the Albanians and the Venetians, then you still want to improve relations with the Albanians and make sure that you get called in to that war once they do declare war on them, so that you can take your provinces. But if that's not the case, then you do have time to make your own war against the Serbians or Byzantines. So do that, call in the Hungarians, co-belligerate everybody, and let's do this. Don't be afraid about the -2 stab. That is fine. It's not a big deal. After attacking, try and make your way to the Byzantine capital if you can get military access through the Ottomans, but if you cannot get it, then that is okay. Rush for Serbia instead. If the Byzantines actually actually get the access through the Turks, then take out their army and chase them back to their capital in Constantinople. Remember that your main target is going to be Byzantines, and let the Hungarians deal with the Bosnians or whatever allies the Serbians have. Remember to lower the war exhaustion whenever needed, and after you've taken the Constantinople fort, then you should rush for the south of Greece. Make sure that you take the provinces that the Byzantines have in Morea. Do remember to have spy networks in the countries that you plan on sieging down, as that will help you siege the provinces faster. After you've ensured that you've gotten all the southern parts of the Byzantine lands, let the Hungarians do the dirty work for you, sieging down Bosnia and Serbia. Do remember to put the provinces of Kosovo and Zeta as provinces of vital interest so that you can take these on later in the game and not the Hungarians. Also, if you're lucky enough to get 10 patriarchal authority, go for the manpower recovery and the discipline, as we will need it in our next war against the Ottomans. Peace out the Byzantines first. Make sure you make them your vassal and take all of their money as well. It is going to cost you a bit of diplo points, but the coalition is very small since we co-belligerated them, so we don't need to worry about that. So booyah, we got the Byzantine vassals now. They are not loyal, so we're going to have to change our spy network here to an improved relations. When you peace out the Bosnians, ensure that you force religion on them and you take all their cash and whatever else you can take from them. So here's the sweet spot of this guide. We're going to give all of these provinces to the Hungarians. We're going to leave the gold mine in Kosovo and the province of Zeta alone, and we're going to take all of their cash as well. Do not go for war reparations, and here is why you don't go for war reparations. It's simply because you're going to get 21 favors from the Hungarians if you don't, and you just take the land and the cash and cancel whatever treaties they might have. Hungarians are going to be more than willing to attack the Ottomans with us. This means we're going to have an army almost the same size as the Ottomans army. So our next war is going to be a reconquest CB against the Ottomans from our vassal Byzantium, and we're going to have our allies here. But before we declare the war, we're going to have to do a few more things. First off, we're going to set the Ottomans themselves as our rivals. We're going to improve our stability to at least -1 or 1, whatever you can get it to. Remember to also bring all of your fleet and merge it into the Sea of Marmara before the war starts. You can put it in the province of Constantinople. If the Ottomans are at war with somebody, for example, right now they're at war with Trebizond and Theodora, that's even better. But if they're not at war, don't worry. As long as we hold the strait, and we should with our vassals, the Byzantium, and our own fleet, as well as the Hungarians, we can own the lands in the Balkans quite easily. As long as we separate their main army and their country in two here, it should be an easy war. Before you do declare war on them, check whichever allies you can get right now, because being a lot larger than we started off as means that we have a lot more options for allies, and we want to use these options. For example, the Karamans are a great option to ally since they are one of the early targets of the Ottomans. Alternatively, you can check whoever rivaled the Ottomans and then go for alliances with those nations. I also recommend before the war starts that you build some more galleys in your own provinces as well as the Byzantine provinces, which pretty much all of them have a port. We want to ensure that we don't have an issue keeping the Sea of Marmara to ourselves during the war. And we also want to recruit some more units, at least go up to your land force limit, which should be around 14 to 15 by now, together with the mercenaries. We also want to make sure that we at least have 0 stability and that we get rid of the separatists before we start the war. Once you're 100% sure that the Ottomans' main army is on the Anatolian side, declare war. Remember to have started building a spy network from before you declare the war. Set your war goal as one of your vassals, many cores, preferably one that is close to you, and call in the Hungarians, and let's start this war. Make sure you go for their capital, Edirne, first. And we have to rush this because the Ottomans, even though they might be weak at a certain point, their manpower pool is insane. They can recover their armies so fast, faster than we can ever dream of recovering ours. Remember that owning the capital doesn't mean anything. We need to take the fort in Gelibolu so they cannot cross onto the Balkan side. So make that our priority. Once you do have control of the Ottoman capital, which should be Edirne, go for your mission, impale the Sultan. Which means that the Ottoman Sultan is actually going to die, and you give 20 devastation in Edirne and get a lot of good relations with most of the rivals of the Ottomans. Not to mention a lot of claims on pretty much all of the Balkans. In the peace treaty, you will not have 100% war score, so it is of vital interest that you take these two provinces here, or if you're really short on war score, just take Silistre, which is really required to form Romania, and take over Gelibolu, Gumulcine, all of these areas here except Selanik and Edirne. If they keep Edirne as their capital, it's going to give us a lot more war score in the second war, so it's going to be a super fast war. And Selanik as well as Corfu, if they have it by this point, have forts in them, so it's also going to improve our war score quite a bit. We got so much war score because we were lucky, and they have 2 extra forts in Corfu and in Albania. Also, if you can, it is vital that you take Ohri, so you have a land bridge to the Serbians so that we can take the gold mine for ourselves in the next war against Serbia. And that is pretty much it. We pieced them out, and booyah, we got our amazing vassal, the Byzantines, much larger. We have pretty much all the provinces we need to form Romania. We just need the one province of Maros in order to form Romania, so we will have to break the alliance with the Hungarians to do it. Before we do that, we can still use the Hungarians in our second war against the Ottomans, which should happen whenever you finish the truce with them. Until then, you can expand into the Serbian lands, as well as take over your Byzantine cores on Arta and annex the rest for yourself. Also the cores you have on Athens. And now you should also be able to get your alliance with your best friend and ally Muscovy, which is definitely gonna support you a lot in the future. So Orthodox bros forever, remember that. When it comes to the ideas that the Moldavians should be taking, I recommend going for religious ideas first, since you want to fight off mostly in the Middle East, as well as into the West, namely into Naples once they become free, and other parts of the Western world and North Africa. If you're short on admin points and you have a lot of military points or diplo points, then you should go trade ideas if you have diplo, or quantity if you have military points. You want quantity since you want to have an army that matches most of the nations that you fight off here. Don't worry about the quality of your army, since you already have some decent ideas that the Moldavians start off with, including plus 10 morale of armies, and later on manpower recovery speed as well as land force limit. If you're not sure about the quality of your army still, then you can also go offensive, but it's nice going quantity since later on you want to take religious and economic, and mixing the two up gives you plus 10 more army morale. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, then don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, as well as leave the bell button on. I also want to thank my patrons. If you'd like to become a patron, then check the link in the description, and until the next one, have a great day.